In 1943, the following directive was issued from party headquarters to all communists in the United States. It read, "When certain obstructionists become too irritating, label them after suitable build-ups as fascist or Nazi or anti-Semitic, and use the prestige of anti-fascist and tolerance organizations to discredit them. In the public mind, constantly associate those who oppose us with those names which already have a bad smell. The association will, after enough repetition, become fact in the public mind."
On this episode of Just Informed Talk, we're going to take a look at the latest new Q posts, and we're going to look at how Q is giving us information on how to go into stealth mode as the big tech tyrant censors are starting to purge all platforms of anything related to Q. So you have to be aware of that. We're going to talk about that. Plus, we're going to cover a bunch of other breaking news that the fake news won't talk about. So stick around and check it out, and a whole lot more. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Just Informed Talk. I'm your host, Craig. You guys know the drill. I always start by saying thanks to everyone who's hit that subscribe button. If you haven't, please come do that. Also hit the like button and stick around at the end. We're going to do a prayer for protection from evildoers. And this is out of the book of Psalms, and it is an important psalm, and we're going to talk about it. So I hope you guys stick around for the scripture at the end, which is our uplifting message that we do every episode. But before we get into that, we always start on the cue board. 4730 is where we left off. We're picking up at 4731, and we're just going to get right into it. So first, we got to check right here this report from this article that Q gives us saying YPG and PKK recruited foreign fighters from Antifa groups in Western countries. Now, this is I guess a publication that is not American, but it is a foreign publication that's writing about this. And since it's a short article, I'm just going to read right through it. It says, a recent report called Foreign Terrorist Fighters in PKK, YPG in Syria, Violent Extremism Backfires, has revealed the relationship between YPG, PKK terrorists in Syria, and Antifa movements in Western countries, warning about the possible negative consequences of turning blind eye to extremist groups' activities. So right there, the beginning paragraph, you see that there is a correlation between what Q was saying in the last few posts before this about, Antifa and ISIS and it's how it's all connected. And remember, I mean, our government, McCain and Obama and Graham were all involved in that racket over there with ISIS, where they're supposedly arming the moderate rebels in Syria, which was really just another way to funnel money and guns into a war zone to keep a conflict going so that they could continue to profit off it, in my opinion. But it says, the report written by academics Murat Tunas and Amat Demirdin and published by the Turkish National Police Academy said that the PKK terror group's affiliates in Syria have recruited many Western individuals from far-right and far-left organizations, including Antifa groups, operating in European countries, the U.S., Canada, and Australia. Quote, when the U.S. president announced that Antifa would be designated a terrorist organization, many turned their eyes to the controversial Antifa movements. Although Antifa and some of its members' criminal acts terrorizing their societies may be a new phenomenon for many, they remain well known to those who have been monitoring the current developments related to terrorism in the Middle East. The report underlined first, quote, first, having a far-left ideology, the PKK has easily penetrated into various leftist movements in Western countries through its established transnational networks. Second, the PKK-YPG has also reinforced its units through far-right extremist foreigners and cooperated with far-right armed groups. The report indicated the authors say that both the glorification of the YPG-PKK in the Western media and international actors in action against terror group have reinforced this flow of foreign fighters and terrorists into the regime. Quote, in other words, international actors ignore the fact that supporting the YPG on the pretext of fighting Daesh, or ISIS, in other words, supporting a terrorist group in combating other terrorists, like I said, arming the moderate rebels, so that's what they used to call it, can backfire with significant security risks for the public. Another important point of the report shows that terrorist groups attempt to justify their terror attacks by creating a narrative that portrays them as freedom fighters, anti-fascist, anti-authoritarian, or anti-communist, claiming to bring about justice by the way of terrorism. That's what they're doing, right? As I've said this before, it's like they're hitting you over there with a baseball bat and they're saying, stop violating me with your words, fascist, and you're not even doing anything. You're just standing there holding a Trump sign and they're beating you over the head, you know? It's crazy. All right. It says the report also emphasized the fact that when the flow of foreign terrorist fighters in YPG PKK in Syria was reversed, fighters returned to their home countries, the risks they posed became more evident. Quote, regardless of their ideology or the groups they join, they can plan, direct, or conduct terrorist attacks, create new terrorist organizations, and radicalize and recruit new terrorists, the report warned. YPG returnees pose an additional danger due to the fact that security institutions of certain Western governments have paid no attention to far-left and far-right extremists associated with YPG, and therefore their numbers, fighting experience, as well as the crimes they have committed in the war zone remain mostly unknown and unmonitored. Yeah, that's disturbing, right? And Q told us about this. He gave us all the pictures of, they're holding Antifa flags. ISIS fighters are holding Antifa flags in the Middle East. It's just insane, right? The report also called attention to the utilization of different narratives based on the terrorist group's ideologies. Quote, the dissemination and promotion of these narratives are paramount in order to attract sympathizers for the terror groups around the world. Thus, public and private institutions working in the field must be cautious not to inadvertently facilitate these narratives, as has been observed in the case of Antifa and the YPG in the pretext of fighting Daesh. Well, guess what else? It's every corporation in America has got a Black Lives Matter slogan on their dashboard, or on their social media or on their corporate websites. Why? Because they're supporting this violent terrorist, these racist violent terrorists who've been radicalized through this infiltration, right? Which is outlined in this article. And Antifa and Black Lives Matter are basically one and the same organization, except Antifa's a little more anarchist and Black Lives Matter is a little more communist. I guess that would be the big difference. But it says, as it can be observed in the case of Antifa and far-right terror groups working with the YPG in Syria and Iraq, that rival terror groups can build unexpected allegiances and exploit the same tragic public event to promote their narratives, the death of George Floyd, etc. Yeah, there you go. In its more than 40-year terror campaign against Turkey, the PKK, listed as terrorist organization by Turkey, the United States, and the European Union, has been responsible for the deaths of 40,000 people, including women, children, and infants. The YPG is the PKK's Syrian offshoot. Yeah, well, this is an interesting article, and we just read through it. And Q says about it this: sometimes non-domestic sources of information provide a more accurate report. Well, this is what we're really up against here. We're up against an organized terrorist movement inside of our nation. So I don't care what anyone says. It, to me, is a violent, racist movement that is rooted in these ideals and principles that were developed over time in war zones, like in Syria, right? And now they're bringing them here. And they're burning down cities. They're violently attacking police and just people on the streets. They're intimidating people. They're using terrorist tactics to try to meddle in the election. And they're being completely endorsed and backed by the Democrat left. And today, Nancy Pelosi came out, we'll talk about it later, and she said, we need to start arresting people who are committing crimes. Where were you for the last 6 months? This is the thing. It's like these people are so inept and feckless that until they see a literal poll that says, yeah, your voting base really doesn't like the fact that you're basically condoning violence and terrorism, that maybe you should say something about it. They're like, oh, yeah, well, I guess we'll go out and now we'll say something about it. They're weak cowards. They are weak, ineffective. You shouldn't even call them leaders because they're just puppets. They're just pawns. They don't think for themselves. They just do what the lobbyists tell them to and the major corporations who buy and control them tell them to do. They don't work for the American people, or they work for the American people who are the domestic terrorists, right? Yeah, can't make it up. And Anon here says, I'm not turning a blind eye. I'm just waiting for justice to arrive. Let it be soon, please. And Q gives us this graphic from an older post in June of this year, where Q pointed back to an older post from May where it said Antifa mapping started a long time ago. So they've been strategically mapping these organizations and understanding how they work. And the quote here that Q gives us is from a Fox News article talking about Antifa arrests coming to riot suburbs. It said, quote, but even before riots exploded across the United States in the aftermath of George Floyd's death, federal and local officials have long been investigating the inner workings and revenue stream of the anarchist left-wing outfit, and arrests among its highest ranks may be imminent. Quote, intelligence sources pointed out that indictments have been building for some time, and a close examination of funding revenues remains under the microscope while Antifa operates as something of a leaderless militant wing. Sources closely engaged in the matter said that there are identifiable top brass driving and inciting criminal activity. So the leadership structure has been completely decimated. And I've seen reports, and there's been an anon who came out who did like an in-depth report on 4chan about how they infiltrated the back, these message boards that Antifa's been using to kind of communicate inside their major, national structure. And they said it's just a complete you-know-what show, because all the big leaders have been basically picked up by the FBI and they're in custody. All these little minions, anarchist idiots, they don't know what to do. They're terrified of Trump supporters. They're terrified of the fact that, they're being exposed as being weak cowards. And they're also terrified of the fact that they know they've been infiltrated and that there's many investigations going on right now where they're actually getting picked up. You've seen the videos where, a van just pulls up and just grabs somebody off the street. Well, that's because they've identified that person has been involved in helping facilitate domestic terrorist activities inside this country, and we're not going to allow it to happen anymore. So that seems to be working in the sense that they have nothing. They call President Trump a fascist and all this stuff, but it's straight out of the communist, handbook on how to, do all these things to manipulate the masses, to dehumanize your target so that when you attack them, it seems okay, right? Which is a whole nother thing in psychological warfare that we're not going to really get into right now. But yeah, that's what Q says there. And then the next post, an anon says, very reassuring. And Q gives this post here, which is an older post from 2018 in June, saying, pointing back to an older Q post saying, we told you proofs were going to be important very soon. New eyes, be ready, 5-5. We thank you for your service, Q. And then the next part says, we stand, we fight together, organized riots being planned, countermeasures in place, resistance far smaller than portrayed by MSM, attacks will intensify, you collectively are a massive threat, censorship applied to scale down impact reach, it's failing, trust yourself, public awakening, Q. So everything Q said has come true, and, obviously there's only so much you can do. You can plan ahead and you can pick them up when they commit these crimes, but I believe all of these organizations have been infiltrated and being watched. Q said this should be also. Q. Reassuring. Yes. Now, here's another one that I thought was very interesting, right? So the gatekeepers of the fake news and the big tech social media tyrants and all these scumbags, who, forgive me, these wonderfully nice, amazing people who just hate America and want to censor you and shut you down and put you under house arrest and make you wear your face mask and, help cover up treason and all that. They're just the nicest kind of people you could ever meet. Totally not scumbags. But it says here an older post from Q from January 2018 saying, do not glorify us. We are all patriots. Honor those who serve for God, humanity, and country. Where we go and we go all Q. And then Q says, focus on content, information, research for yourself, gatekeeper. Now, a person that controls access to information, often acting as an arbiter of quality or legitimacy. Sound like anyone you know? Yeah, sounds like the fake news liars and the big tech tyrants who are trying to shut us down and their corrupt partners in Congress who are just the worst kind of traitors to this country you could ever imagine. But I digress. It says, an open internet allows innovators to bypass traditional gatekeepers and promote their work on its own merit. A guardian, monitor, deploy camouflage, drop all references regarding Q, QAnon, etc. to avoid ban termination, censorship install. Algos, sniffers, bypass, keep charging midnight riders, reveres midnight ride, delivery of free information, bypass the controlled media narrative, Q. So look, Q's giving us the way to get around this, right? We just got to stop mentioning Q and QAnon. And I know that a lot of people are going to be like, well, I'm not going to stop, but okay, fine. But they're going to try to censor us all, right? And for me, when I think about it, I came into this from day one where, I was just a Christian conservative who was objectively trying to look at this thing and say, is this real or is this not? And maybe we should be listening to this information. Maybe we should be doing deep research into all the things that we're being given. And that's what I've been doing for the last 3 years. And it's funny to me that now, all these people get kicked off and censored and they're picking us off one by one. But I'm so proud of all of you guys out there to see you guys get your voices heard and to stand up. You go and make your Twitter accounts and go on your Facebook account and go on all your other social media, and you just pump this information out there. And you know what? Like Q said, you don't have to mark it as Q or QAnon. Just put out the information, the truth that we are uncovering here. You could just put the content of what is being talked about here and research it and share it with others. What are they going to do? Just keep shutting us down? Yeah, okay. I know I put my life to God, and I will put everything on the line for this country and for my family and to preserve this republic because I believe in it. And I believe in the freedom that we have here, the freedom of speech, the freedom to arm ourselves, to defend ourselves against tyrants who want to subjugate us and take away all of our freedom and destroy our quality of life and remove our liberty. I mean, we all have to do our part, right? So I'm proud to be here with all of you. And this is incredible. You know, it's an incredible time that we're living in. And yes, it's going to be hard. And yet nothing that's worth having is easy. That's something I always have to remind myself. And that's something I think is always worth noting, right? And if we put our faith in God, they can't do anything to us, regardless of what they do to us here on this earth, right? Because what's of this world is temporary. What's not of this world is eternal. And that's the way I remember it. Our eternal salvation through Jesus Christ our Lord. So, yeah, I mean, you guys can, make of that what you will. The next post here is an anon saying, if somebody comes to accept a truth or swallow a red pill without knowing it was associated with Q, then they do so unpolluted by media bias regarding QAnon. Bypass prejudice makes sense. That's what anon was all about, right? Nobody cares about ranks or names or upvotes or e-stardom. The content of your post should speak for itself. Ideas. Yeah, that's 100% it, right? Because I'm here to share the word of God. And I'm here to talk about the injustice, the inequality of a two-tier justice system that has led to all of these criminal, treasonous traitors to come out here. I mean, I remember when I started this channel, I was just some guy, angry guy, yelling into a microphone. That was like 3 or 4 years ago. And then even before that, I was making YouTube videos about Hunter Biden, and I was getting like 50 views a video, and I was doing research on Devin Archer and Burisma and Bohai Harvest and connecting all the dots there. And that was years ago. That was before Q even. And, you do this because you love your country. You do this because you love Christ and you know that you're doing the right thing. And that's what it's all about. That's the movement they can't destroy. And if it means that we have to disassociate when we talk about it on social media from the Q and QAnon, then okay, we'll keep talking about the truth. I'm not going to stop talking about Christ, and I'm not going to stop talking about the Clintons and Epstein Island and Nexium and the treasonous traitors in Congress and the big tech tyrants who are trying to silence us. They can't shut us down. They can only malign us by taking the movement and just painting it with such a brush that is such a distortion of the truth that it's disgusting, right? It's infuriating and it's enraging at times. But you have to overcome that. We all have to overcome that simply by focusing on the information, and that's it. And in my case, focusing on Christ and God. Can't do much else after that. Then it says rig for red Q, and that's a term that's used in submarines where if they're going to put up the periscope, they turn off all the lights and turn on red lights so that I guess the periscope doesn't get spotted on the horizon or whatever. So, yeah, rig for red is what we have to do. We're turning on the red lights now, which means we're going into stealth mode, ladies and gentlemen. And, yeah, so there you go. That's the simple long and short of it. A few more things I want to talk about before we wrap this up. And here's the thing I was talking about earlier. Internal polls must be really bad. After initially embracing Maoist mob, Pelosi now calls for prosecution of riots. So this is the same woman when asked about tearing down statues. She was just like, I don't care about that. Right? She said something to that effect. And now she's out here. She has this whole statement out where she says, we support peaceful demonstrations. We participate in them. They are a part of the essence of our democracy. That does not include looting, starting fires, or rioting. Really? It's taking you 6 months to say this? And you're supposed to be the Speaker of the House? You're supposed to be a person that leads us, that is a trustworthy individual? Anything but. These people are liars, and they're complicit in aiding and abetting domestic terrorism in this country, and they should be held accountable. I would have them all arrested if I was president, but the country would be ran a lot different if I was president. Apparently, Dan Bongino just bought a part ownership of a video sharing company called Tumble. or Rumble, I should say. And yeah, it's interesting. I might start posting over there. I don't know. I mean, we're all gonna have to get off these big tech companies' platforms anyway after this election. I think that's when there's going to be a big transition where, like, I hope what happens is after this election, Trump leaves Twitter and then encourages his like 80 million, 100 million followers to leave with him, and then goes to like a platform like, I don't know, Parler or whatever. And then like that starts an exodus from all of it so that we can basically break the metaphorical backs of the big tech tyrants and put them out of business, because they all deserve to be broken, in my opinion, in jail for treason. They worked with the Chinese communists, that they're violating constitutional civil liberties, and they do it with impunity. It's disgusting. The people who are involved in that should be ashamed of themselves, but that would require them to have some type of introspective ability, which they don't have. So that's what I thought about that. Of course, that was the actual quote from her. Here's another one. President Trump says this on Twitter and gets this, right? It says the big unsolicited ballot states should give it up now before it's too late. Ask people to go to the polling booths and, like always before, vote. Otherwise, mayhem. Solicited ballots, absentee are okay. So what he's saying is, if they don't ask for a ballot, why are you sending them? I think I saw a story and I think we'll get to it in a minute, but there was like in Pennsylvania, I think they were getting 2 ballots. Yeah. Here it is, Pennsylvania. This was a woman's tweet just down here saying that she's gotten 2 ballots per person. So for her and her husband, each got 2 each. And it's just like, it's so fraudulent. It's so criminal what they're doing. And then not to mention that literally you have Twitter editorializing the president of the United States tweet saying, learn how voting by mail is safe and secure. Thanks for the unsolicited editorial change to the president's tweets, Twitter, right? Speaking of unsolicited, nobody needs this. Nobody wants it. The only people that need and want it are the people who are trying to push this mail-in voting fraud, which is going to end up trying to stall out the election. They're going to try to invalidate the results of the election because they think they can push it to a timeline where the House of Representatives has to pick the president. And we all know what that'll be. It'll be Nancy Pelosi and they'll pick Biden. And it'll be, I think we'll go, I mean, I only can say that it would be a point at which you could see conflict happen in this United States. And that's what they want, because they know they can't win. They know Trump's exposed their corruption and treason. And like I've said 1,000 times before here on this channel, they would rather destroy this country than to be held accountable for their crimes. That's it. They thought they lived in this Washington elite club where they could do whatever they want, 2-tier justice system. The law only applies to us, the subjects, and the rulers, didn't have to follow it. And that's just not going to be how it's going to be in the future. Hopefully, if we can actually have justice in this Durham probe that's coming up. As we talk about the Durham probe, here we go. All Senate Judiciary Committee Democrats, including Kamala Harris, of course, not for political reasons, because she's, a senator, sign a letter calling for an inspector general investigation of political interference in the Durham probe. You think they're scared of what's coming out of this probe? You think that these criminals, these treasonous traitors who supposedly represent us in Congress are afraid that the coup that they tried to run with the President of the United States and cover up is going to get exposed? You think they're afraid that their little lapdogs, Brennan and Comey and Clapper, who ran this whole thing that they tried to run interference for with the Mueller special counsel blockade, you think it's all going to come out and you think they're afraid? I think so. Because it's so nakedly obvious and obviously political. These people, as I said before, and I'll say it again, they would rather destroy this country than to be held accountable for their crimes and their treachery and their treason. And I guess I can't blame them, because I think you guys know what the punishment for treason is, right? Portland riots just stopped, but why? Oh, I think what's happened here is we've had some major developments but it says here on September 7th, in the morning, or to the morning of the 8th, the Pacific Northwest experienced a major wind event. Winds gusted through Oregon and Washington at 60 miles an hour. Fires that had been allowed to crackle along, such as the BITCHUTE fire, flared up. Power lines were down, fires kicked up, and then came the reports. Clackamas County Sheriff's officials reported that people had seen Antifa protester types reportedly staging gas cans, looting, etc. So what's obvious when you come down here and read the conclusion down here, it seems Unlikely that a group that spawned a murderer, multiple arsonists, and police assaulters would be dissuaded by smoky quality air. It's probably because why the riots have stopped is because the media are busy covering the wildfires and there's nothing in rioting for the terrorists, or is it because of something else? Well, I think it's because the media's not got their cameras over there. So if they don't have the cameras, then they don't get seen. And if they don't get seen, then there's no effect. They want to terrify you. That's terrorism. That's the whole point, is they have to have it shown and to be broadcast. So, yeah, so Bill Barr comes out here in this article talking about the coronavirus lockdowns are, quote, the greatest intrusion on civil liberties, unquote, since slavery. And it's so true, right? You think about what they've done. They've put people under house arrest. They've forced this mandate of mask wearing. All of it is completely unconstitutional and completely a violation of our civil liberties, yet there's so many people complying with it. And like, I live out here in California, and good luck trying to do anything, right? They will literally kick you out of the store. You could be like, I have a medical condition. I can't breathe with one. They don't care. They will kick you out. They will deny you service. They'll kick you out of the government offices. I've seen it firsthand, and there's nothing you can do. Once you get kicked out, it's like, well, I guess I can't ever go there again. It's like there's only so many grocery stores in town before I get kicked out of every one of them, right? And for me, you know, I do my best. You know, I don't wear a mask in certain places. I know what stores will and won't, you know, enforce that rule. And I only go and shop and give business to the places that I know aren't enforcing these draconian, Orwellian, nightmarish rules that are violations of our civil liberties. So, but there are certain things you can't avoid. Like sometimes you have to go to the government office, like the DMV, to get stuff done. What's your other option? Violate the law even more? You know, it's like, so I don't know, man. I'm just telling you, this is disgusting, and I'm living through it. So yeah. And of course, Twitter is expanding its QAnon restrictions to include candidates and elected officials. Oh, great. Thanks, Jack Brewster. Yeah, you read through this and it just reads like it literally could just read out of 1984, the way that they're like, the thought policing that's happening here, and how they're using it now to literally just meddle in the election, because you can't freely think anymore. That's out the window. Big tech censors, it's too important to them to get Donald Trump out of office and to have their minions, their easily controlled puppets, put back in power. And you can't talk about George Soros, can't talk about the Rothschilds, can't talk about their globalist conspiracy to destroy this country, can't talk about any of it. If you even mention it, you're going to get, you know, thrown off the air. So, yeah, that's pretty much where I'm going to wrap it up. A few more things before we go. Obviously, I'm not verified on YouTube anymore. Oh no, what will I do? I don't know. It is what it is. I think they did it because they're probably just, you know, the nicest people in the world who totally aren't trying to destroy this country and undermine the 2020 election and sabotage this channel. And it's funny how all of my videos seem to get exactly 36,000 views now, almost like they've put a cap on it. You know they're suppressing this channel, so share these videos, get them out there. I mean, look, you know these people, what they're doing, their scum tricks they're doing to manipulate the analytics to suppress this content, especially ahead of the election. And it's obviously it's discriminatory. Obviously it's a violation of my civil rights and liberties. And they'll just say, oh, it's the algorithm. It's like, all right, whatever. But yeah, you can still come and watch them and share them. Hit the share button, get it out there. I don't know. It's the best I can do, right? And also, don't forget to leave your thoughts, theories, and insights below. I want to hear what you guys have to say about everything, because I'm always interested to hear that. A few more things. If you want, you can come find me over here on Twitter at JustInformYou. You can also find me on Twitter at informed_news. And you can find me on Parler at JustInformedTalk as the official Parler handle. And don't forget to go check out the link in the description of this video to try out the Touchstone Essential products. These are products I love. I use Pure Body Extra Strength Zeolite Detoxifier. It's been a game changer for me with all the heavy particulates in the air out here. The California air quality is like, basically, I told my family, I'm like, when you walk outside, even at night, I said it feels like I'm standing in the middle of a smoky casino, because that's how thick the smoke is, like every day, nonstop. So I take these products and they've changed my life. They've helped me feel better, breathe better, get all that heavy metal out of my system, all the detoxifying things. And I start every morning with a fresh glass of the super green juice, which is so delicious. And it gives me so much better, cleaner energy than a cup of coffee ever did for me. And I don't even drink coffee anymore, but Some of my family do. So, they like coffee. I don't. I prefer the super green juice. And if I'm going to go to bed and I'm trying to get a good night's sleep, I take some of the CBD oil and I feel amazing. So check out all those products. Those are the popular ones, but they have a bunch of other products and they're a great company that do great work. So give them a shot if you want. Also, you can find me on justinformednews.com. It's the official website for Just Informed Talk. Links to all the stuff, breaking news, the Q stuff, Twitter feeds and breaking news, all that stuff. So go check it out. Also, you can find the backup channel BITCHUTE.com. Of course, like I said, I'm having trouble with this stupid thing because it's supposed to auto upload my videos from YouTube to here, but it just doesn't do it because big tech, I'm sure, is just sabotaging my channel every way they can. So yeah, I'll have to go and catch up and get more of the videos up there. But if you want to support this channel, you can find me over here on Patreon. It's patreon.com/justinformedtalk. It's a monthly donation, crowdfunding website. Your support has kept this channel alive. Without you guys, I couldn't do it. So I'm thankful and I'm grateful. And also I have a GoFundMe set up if you want to make a one-time or anonymous donation. Links to everything will be in the description below this video. Now, before we go, the best part, God's grace is greater, where we talk about God's grace and how it is truly greater. Today we're going to do prayer for protection from evildoers, which is wildly appropriate given the content that we are covering. Psalm 64. So we're back in the book of Psalms, which I love, and these are uplifting and they're powerful. So here's the prayer. God, hear my voice when I complain. Protect my life from the terror of the enemy. Hide me from the scheming of the wicked, from the mob of evildoers. Sound appropriate? Who sharpen their tongues like swords and aim bitter words like arrows, shooting from concealed places at the innocent. They shoot at him suddenly and are not afraid. They encourage each other in an evil plan. They talk about hiding traps and say, "Who will see them?" They devise crimes and say, "We have perfected a secret plan." The inner man and the heart are mysterious. But God will shoot them with arrows. Suddenly they will be wounded. They will be made to stumble. Their own tongues work against them. All who see them will shake their heads. Then everyone will fear and will tell about God's work, for they will understand what he has done. The righteous rejoice in the Lord and take refuge in him. All the upright in heart offer praise. Amen. And I share that with you because I thought that was an incredibly appropriate psalm for today. With the evil that we see and the evil that exists, we know that they are coming after us. But what they don't realize, as it says here, God will shoot them with arrows and suddenly they will be wounded. They will be made to stumble. Their own tongues work against them. Then everyone will fear and will tell about God's work, and they will understand what he has done. So remember, even they will understand someday the evil that they've been a part of and how it's all for naught because God is more powerful. And he will come to judge the living and the dead. And we will be here always standing for God in everything that we do. And that's my message to you. And I want you to share that with your friends and families and loved ones and get the word out there. May God and Christ and the Holy Spirit be with you. I'm so thankful for every one of you. Also, don't forget, hit the subscribe button and reverse roundhouse kick that like button if you want. And let them know you like this content. And that's it for me, though. Thanks for watching Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.